I come here today from a land down south, down under, down beneath, anything degrading would work fine. I stand on a stage I never knew existed and attend a university I never thought I could afford. And from my mystical land, I carry with me a presumed image built on assumptions. Based on a name which I didn't get to pick, one would predict a certain set of characteristics and a mentality which, just because of where I originate, then I must have. A stereotype followed by another, as if we're all created in a cloning machine that spawns a child every time you pray to it. I felt as if I was trapped inside a balloon, and I hated every bit of it. A balloon opaque enough that makes you unsure of an outside. I pushed and pushed, but all I could make were spikes before I ran out of reasons to continue. Sorry. Only for the rubber to slap me back inside. The balloon was opaque enough. Sorry. I got distracted. I'll repeat this part. Sorry. I felt as if I was trapped inside a balloon, and I hated every bit of it. A balloon opaque enough that makes you unsure of an outside. I pushed and pushed, but all I could make were spikes before I ran out of reasons to continue, only for the rubber to slap me back inside. I wasn't sure what's on the outside. I wasn't even sure there is an outside. But I was sure that I was in a space and time in which my existence simply made no sense. For every night, I used to stay up late either watching torrented documentaries or thinking about the world, life, and the catch of it all. And every morning I used to wake up early and force my warm ass out of bed just so I could attend a public high school in South Lebanon. My morning exercise routine grew to become a trip down the empty, noisy corridors that led to the principal's office after getting kicked out of class, either due to sleeping or lack of attention. But you know what? I'm not here to bore you with a story of how I came to be. Spoiler alert, I built a damn tank. And A, I'm here to brag about it. B, share my experience and what I learned, and most importantly, C, why and what pushed me to do it all. Now starting with A, that's right, a tank. No claps for the tank? And gets even more amazing, because the name was inspired from my biology class. Well, the part I actually paid attention to. I called it STD, not a sexually transmitted disease, but a strategic and tactical drone, which is a far away of a description from what I actually ended up building, but it sounded awesome. Now, before I go on talking about the single most epic thing I've done in my life, that's it for the bragging part, I promise. Let me tell you how the idea came to be. Honestly, I have no idea how this idea came to be. What was going through my mind that made me decide that I wanted to build a tank is still a mystery till this very day, but I'm glad I did. For you see, back in my high school days, I was just that nerd wannabe who used to carry 4 different colored pens and a notebook in his front shirt pocket. I chose a good picture of me down there over this one because I look, you can tell. Well, the only XX chromosome carriers, again from my biology class, whom I was able to talk with were my mother and some blood relatives. My best friend was my laptop, and I would never, no matter what, share her name in public. And as for my cherries, well, I called them cherries, and that should be self-explanatory. Now, on the less humorous side, I always felt I'm out of place. No one bothered to understand me and how I think, and I never tried to square my mind so I could fit in. But nonetheless, I wanted to prove myself and my worth. It is human instinct, the need to excel. So it wasn't until a day when I put my cherries to good use and headed towards the principal's office with one request in mind, to enroll me in Mubarat al-Ulum, or the science competition, arranged by the National Association for Science and Research. It took me tens of trips and much more no's to finally convince him that I'm up to the challenge, that my STD can be built, and hence the start of a fun yet brutal journey, to say the least. Now, I'm gonna go fast and talking about how I spent 4 months building and learning STD for the sake of keeping your eyes open and your mouths unyawning. For starters, the things I had to learn before actually starting to work were processing and Arduino to take care of the programming part and to communicate with the onboard circuitry. I had to learn 3ds Max and AutoCAD for the sake of designing the tank and of course basic circuitry. There's a fun story here. None of my instructors at my high school knew what a transistor is, and it's the electrical component that I end up using the most in my tank and in many variants. Now, for the sake of getting money out of the way, what started as a $650 project evolved into an $8,300 project. A third of which was donated by a very generous person looking to support his community, and the other 2/3 were from my aunt's car savings. Thanks, Aunt. Now, let's talk about Lebanon. This is the wrong place to have anything custom built. Apart from the insane components prices, there's almost no one willing to take in a custom design, no matter how good and well documented your design is. And getting back to the components, I couldn't find a single shop who has certain components with certain characteristics, or at least willing to order them for me. At most, you would be lucky if you found other parts, with other replacement parts with something else which you could use in your project. And for driving the tank, I ended up using windshield wiper motors used in a huge Mercedes transportation trucks. And for treads, I used the things they roll bread into the oven in automated bakeries. Now, something else about here. I couldn't find a good working environment to work, so I had to work in the basement beneath my building. You know, it was great with the spiders, humidity, no reception, and no sunlight. And I ended up building 2 tanks actually, which you'll see in a second, because the first one had way too many amateur mistakes committed on it. And after just 2 months of beginning work on STD, I had to agree with my principal to stop attending school completely so that I could narrow down my attention to my STD alone and make it my sole responsibility to pass the official exams, which determine whether I graduate high school or not. And something else is that I used to go days without food and getting my energy from caffeine drinks and from energy drinks and caffeine. And I feel the need to restate this. I had to learn 2 different programming languages and learn how to both design and build a circuit from scratch on my own, just for the sake of history. But you know what? I'm glad I managed to do it all. Because on 15th of May 2012, that guy standing there on stage with a mini afro just couldn't hide his smile. For just 15 minutes before the judging deadline was over, I managed to get the tank working. After 72 hours of non-stop work and being found over there with slippers and shorts and smelling like grease in between suits and expensive perfumes, I was able to get the tank working. And just before this deadline was over, STD butched her ass. And through the winning prize, which I was lucky to get, I managed to get a full scholarship, a full 1-year scholarship here to NDU. So I could stand here, thank you. So I could stand here on this TEDx stage and tell you about a hopefully interesting story about a rather interesting transition from a public high school to a prestigious private university. But I'm not done yet. There's still part C, which is why and what pushed me to finish STD.
But first,
let me show you a video of the tank working, not take a selfie. Now, thank you. Now, while working on the tank, I learned the value of determination and that how having a clear goal can affect it. I learned that if you love something and are passionate enough about it, you can go days devoid of food and sleep without even realizing it. And I learned that it doesn't matter what others think about you. It's what you think of yourself and how badly you want them to think the same that does. Yet, here I am, after finishing a one-year full scholarship at NDU, struggling to keep my GPA high enough for a 50% scholarship. Here I am, after challenging all those who thought much less of me and my surroundings, and after proving them wrong, that a student from a public high school from South Lebanon can and did change the perspectives of all those who thought much less of him and his surroundings. Here I am standing, unchallenged but unappreciated, capable but not welcome, still seeking that chance to accomplish. But this all doesn't matter, because I tell you what, I don't know how the universe came to be, and I don't know how evolution played its game so that our species can become conscious and aware of our surroundings, well, most of us anyway. And I have no idea what comes after this life, if anything at all, but I know this. For Amin, it was creating illusions. For Viveka and Lisa, it was finding hearts. As for me, I can't tell yet, but it definitely includes robots, last-minute work, and overcoming a challenge. There's a cliche quote that goes, if there is a will, there is a way. And there is another that goes, to be or not to be. This is no longer the question. We already are people, so why not make the best of it? Thank you.